it's been a fortnight since I got back from a spiritual weekend, a medicine weekend. And by that I mean a group of guys spending time in a teepee with a fire, talking about emotions, feelings, experiences, all in the hope of healing themselves and healing everybody else. I've been seeing this guy Jerry Hyde as part of my men's group work since September. And there are 7 of us, plus Jerry, who meet every fortnight for 3 hours. And we deal with issues big, issues small, emotions, whatever's most relevant for any individual. And it's the sort of thing that guys don't talk about down the pub. And this weekend was a little bit like an extension of that. A little bit providing fuel for our ongoing work. 21 of us, plus Jerry and his friends, and a spiritual, not guru, more guide, Shivam O'Brien. We went down to Sussex, and of the 21 of us, we were all drawn from different men's groups that Jerry runs. The oldest of which is 15, and we're very much the babies at less than a year old. And I'm trying to use this to share my experience and what I got out of this healing weekend. One thing that really struck me was the perception that this guy Shivam had. For weeks, months, possibly years, I've been carrying around this sadness. It's been really heavy on my shoulders. I've had tears sort of just welling up in my, just shy of my eyes. It's been really painful. And Shivam did this wonderful opening ceremony to sort of mark the transition from practicalities, setting up the teepee, to real work. And part of that was you had to be welcomed by Shivam himself and Jerry. And Shivam said to me, "How do you know that you're ready? How do you know you're going to be able to cope when the tears come?" And that kind of shook me quite a lot, actually. I know that he won't have been briefed on my history. It was just his way of looking into me. The weekend in itself was kind of one piece of work. We did a breathing exercise, a communal breathing exercise, early on the Saturday, and then talked about it. Individually, we talked about our experience of this breathing exercise and where it took us or didn't take us, and what that had triggered in us. And everybody else could challenge, question, and help you with your own work. I found it hugely touching, really, really deep in myself, to hear men of all ages, all walks of life, talk openly, honestly, tenderly about things that I think society expects us to just get on with. Fatherhood, relationships, emotions, friendships, death. Death's kind of there for us all. And as men, certainly I've experienced as a man, the expectation to have the stiff upper lip, to just carry on. Doesn't affect me. So as a general point, I found the weekend hugely enlightening as to the way men can be loving and tender without relinquishing any of their masculinity. My own work didn't bring tears, it didn't break me down. In the breathing exercise, it felt like I had this hand clasped over the bottom of my throat. I was gagging. I couldn't scream, I couldn't shout, I couldn't make any noise. And it scared me, it rattled me. Some of my work was about how that had played out in my life before. And one thing that came up was that I don't like asking for help. It's not how I perceive a man should be. So, in the spirit of friendly challenge, I had to ask for help of each and every one of the guys in that teepee. It was difficult. It was difficult to look a man in the eye and say, please help me. Because my inner critic is so well attuned to saying, that's weak, that's wrong. Another part of my work was having to hear what every guy in the teepee loved about me. It was really touching, but also really difficult. Because I don't think a guy has ever really expressed their love. I think, certainly in my experience, saying I love you to a woman, whether that's a lover or just a friend, is relatively straightforward. Saying it to a guy, my heart's going now a little bit just at the thought of it. But this weekend, which was based around love as a sort of general overarching theme, kind of brought home to me how it's possible to be loved by a man in a pure, tender sense. The weekend, I thought, was probably one of the best experiences in my life. I don't think I've ever felt somewhere so nurturing, so loving, so caring as that teepee with those guys. So what? So what? How how do you take it forward? That's the difficult bit. Certainly it is for me. I found myself trying to talk more, especially in groups. I've always struggled to put my opinion across in large groups for fear of being ridiculed, for fear of being judged. Even more than that, I've really started to grapple with the idea of, am I lovable? Which, certainly from Jerry's perspective, is kind of the key question. Everything else is a secondary thing. And that's difficult. But since the weekend, I've found myself being a bit more accepting of when I procrastinate, when I get rejected, and when I think about myself and my history. I found myself harking back to my childhood and having a bit of a dialogue with my inner child, that what he experienced, the fear that it's all going to be okay. I still don't think, even 2 weeks on, that I'm anywhere near unpacking everything that came up. I think it's still at quite a grandiose, overarching level. But I've definitely seen a shift to being more in love with myself, and to being more open to loving relationships with guys.